I want to give this old, broken table a new purpose. Let's light the fish and get busy. While I pick at the old existing glue, I'll tell you the story of this piece. My wife recently showed me a Facebook post or something like that and said this was something that she really wanted me to build for her. Well, not really build, it's more repurpose something. And to be honest, I figured she's probably never going to find a piece quite like that, so I'm probably safe that I'm not going to have to do this anytime soon. But I was horribly wrong. Within a couple days, she had this old broken table, and she said it would be perfect for this project. Perfect. So the project begins with me picking off all the old glue and kind of assessing the overall condition of this table. This old table was free, discarded by someone. They didn't want it anymore, didn't need it anymore, or just got tired of the leg being wobbly. Regardless of why the previous owner was done with it, it was a free table and definitely worth experimenting with. Unfortunately, the little table doesn't have a tag or anything that tells me who made it or when it was made, but it does have little clues that I was able to use to come up with what I think is a reasonable date of when it was made. And I will share these little clues throughout the video. And I'm curious if anybody else got their start in woodworking by repairing and refinishing old furniture. Drop a comment. Tell me about it. The first little clue is the sliding dovetail base. This was very popular, and there's still probably tables being made this way, but they're also notorious for breaking. At some point, weather causes them to crack, that if the season gets too dry or somebody piles something too heavy on, and that dovetail joint just cracks in the center hub. And after that, you have a table that just always has a wobbly leg. And you often see fixes that failed. And someone did try to fix this table by gluing it. I'm guessing that they probably used something like Elmer's glue, and it failed. And this is the glue that I've been picking off for the last couple minutes. A couple minutes of video time, and a lot longer in the shop. So instead of taking the joint apart and trying to fix it with wood glue and clamps, I'm going a bit more drastic, and I'm going to tape this thing up and basically fill all the voids in the joint with epoxy. My thought is that when cured, the epoxy is actually stronger than the glue itself. Therefore, adding it to the joint will make this joint stronger than when it was wood and glue. This yellow tape is plastic based, and I've found that epoxy does not stick to it. So the epoxy will basically come to the surface through all these little cracks that I've been picking at, and it'll stop at the tape, and we'll be able to remove the tape later, and cleanup will be pretty easy. It's pretty cold in the shop today, so I boiled some water, put it in this pan, and then put both parts of epoxy in the pan. Left them probably sit for 10 minutes in that warm water, and it just made the epoxy flow a little bit better. And I had fewer bubbles in the epoxy, so that's a good thing. I stirred the epoxy for several minutes, and then you start by just pouring it into all the different cracks and holes and voids. Let it settle, and just keep pouring until it won't take any more epoxy. Epoxy seems to always find a way to escape, so just wipe it off while it's still wet and apply more tape. The excitement I feel when removing the tape on an epoxy job is probably similar to what a plastic surgeon feels when they remove the bandages from a nose job patient. You don't really know how it went until you remove the bandages. As for the procedure performed on this little table, I'm liking what I'm seeing. Now I just need to use a sharp chisel to remove any of the epoxy squeeze out or rough spots, and then I'll move into the sanding phase. Now it's time to get a bit more aggressive with the transformation of this little table. And if you want to play the furniture restoration game, stop the video now and leave a comment on what you thought the wood was in this little table. Is it cherry? Is it mahogany? Or is it something else? We'll know for sure once I finish cutting through this center hub. And it gives us another clue on the age of the table. The little table is built from good old furniture grade poplar. The finish was tinted to resemble cherry. Cherry wood was more expensive then, as it is now. So they went with poplar because the intent was to make an affordable table, but make it appear like it was made from cherry. Side note, when my wife described this little project, she told me that I just needed to scoop some wood out. So this is my process of scooping out wood. I grabbed a scrap piece of wood to cut into wedges, which I'll utilize later. The little table gave me another clue on its age when I was removing the screws that held the top on. 7 different sizes of screws is not how the original maker built this table. I think the different screws reflect the repairs that were done over the years. The age clue is the fact that all of the mismatched screws are all regular drive screws versus Phillips heads. This through tenon with wedges detail is unexpected, and perhaps another clue on the little table's age. I plan to repurpose this piece from the table also. Since I know the little table had a tinted finish, I want to sand it lightly, but I want to keep some of that tint still on the table. I'm going for the same color, but I just want to clean the whole thing up. Brushing on mineral spirits helps clean the wood and also gives me a preview of what it's going to look like when I apply the finish. Poplar would not have this cherry color if I had sanded completely down to the raw wood. For the finish, I'm wiping on a medium walnut Danish oil. The medium walnut color will help enhance the red of the existing stain. And I think the piece will end up with a nice balanced antique furniture look. Based upon the construction methods, tinted finish, types of screws, and other little hints, I believe this table was built in the 1940s, 1950s era. It was probably built in a production furniture factory, but the through tenon with wedges tells me that there was a maker who was assigned to this table. A woodworker provided for his family by making these small tables and other pieces of furniture purchased by people who couldn't necessarily afford high-end furniture, but they wanted furniture that looked nice. And during this past 75 years that this little table has been furniture, someone has taken the time to try to make repairs to keep the little table going. And just when the little table was destined to go in the garbage, my wife decided to rescue it, and we're going to give it a new purpose, and it will become an heirloom piece in our family. First, I'll show you the finished piece, and then I'll show you the new purpose. This project is not an antique restoration. The finished piece is far from perfect. The nicks and epoxy-filled cracks give it character. And sometimes character is the sign of a life well lived. And here it is, my wife's vision. How to make a fake, scrawny Christmas tree from Walmart look fancy, with a vintage vibe and a hint of Victorian era. She absolutely loves her new vintage tree stand and the vintage spindle added to her small tree collection. Make someone you know happy by giving them something you made or something you repurposed. They'll love you for it. Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays 2025.